if it just happens to be a white officer and if it just happens to be a black suspect, then that becomes our only focus. And I think that part makes it an unfortunate loss of an opportunity, because now we're not talking about those other relevant issues. We're not talking about training. We're not talking about management. We're not talking about leadership. Yep. We're only talking about race. And then we lose the ability to move forward in a more productive way.
Brothers and sisters! Brothers and sisters! I don't know what this world is coming to!
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. Hey, Black and Blue fam, welcome to the Black and Blue Podcast. This is the Black and Blue Streetlight version, where I take the Black and Blue Podcast out of the studio and into the streets. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Dale. I appreciate everybody for checking it out. I'm in this beautiful facility in San Bernardino, but before we get to that, let me ask you all, hey, make sure you click those like, subscribe, and all those bell icons right there on the YouTube channel, and check me out on all my social media pages. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. So again, like I said, I am right now in the streets, well, not in the streets, right now I'm at a facility at the San Bernardino, California Police Department, and I got a very special guest for you here today. Everyone, please help me welcome to the show, Chief Darren Goodman.
Thank you.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Quick. How you doing?
All right, appreciate that.
All right,
doing well.
This has been a long time coming. We've been trying to link up here, but we finally got to it. And so, how's your day? How you doing today?
Everything's going great. The day is going good so far. Always busy here in San Bernardino, but I'm really happy to be here. And I apologize that it's taken us so long. I know we've tried to coordinate this for a while.
I know you're a busy guy, and you're a brand new chief here over at San Bernardino. How long you been here now?
It's been approximately 8 months. I started in June. And it's been a great ride so far. Great organization, a lot of great people here, lots of new things to do and to achieve.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about what's going on over here in San Bernardino. But where'd you come from? You were
So my last assignment was in Upland. I was the chief of police for Upland, California, or the city of Upland rather, and I was there for almost 4 years. Prior to that, I was with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, where I did 27 years before I retired as a captain there. In my last station, I was the chief of police for the contract city of Chino Hills.
Okay, yeah. So how was that experience over there at the Sheriff's Department for 27?
It was fantastic. I learned a lot, had a lot of great experiences, a lot of great assignments, have a lot of good memories there. Still, very much involved with the Sheriff's Department now more than ever. Being here, San Bernardino was the namesake, the county seat, of the county. So we do a lot of work with the Sheriff's Department. We have a lot of jurisdictions that intertwine with one another. But when I was there, I worked a variety of assignments. I worked, obviously street level patrol, worked narcotics, worked SWAT, worked emergency operations, did a stint in internal affairs, worked fugitive apprehension, worked as the commander of the training academy. For several years.
Yeah, I think that's where I first met you at the training academy. Exactly. Years ago. Yeah.
So it was a great ride. I think I've probably worked every assignment that anybody would ever want to work. Great career, and it culminated, like I said before, with me being the captain at the Chino Hills Station.
Okay. And the captain of Chino Hills Station, is that kind of like in the Sheriff's Department? You're kind of like the chief of that city?
Exactly, because we contract with several cities, Chino Hills being one of them, one of the ones that we've had a very long contract with. I think it was 25 years when I was there. And as a contract city, they have the ability to have a full service police department that is just provided through the Sheriff's Department. Right. So I was their chief of police.
Okay, all right. And how was that experience for you? I'm sure you learned a lot.
It was good. It actually provided the platform to give me the experience of being a municipal chief of police. That was where I first began working with city councils, understanding the relationship that a city police chief must have with the city manager, developing the tools to engage the community and understanding how all those dynamics worked, because that was the first experience that I had with that.
Yeah, because being a chief of police is all about the politics, right? Well, not all about the politics.
There's a lot of politics involved, but as a chief of police, you try not to be political, but you certainly have to have a political acumen, and that means understanding, how politics drives the job and influences the job, even if it's just from legislation. That's important. It's important to be aware of. But then there's those political nuances, and those things are those things that will impact a particular council member or a particular phone call or notification to the members of the council or your city manager, and just trying to be out in front of those things and understanding that if it makes a phone call to them, it's probably going to make a subsequent phone call to me. So you need to be aware of that.
Okay, all right. And so now you're the chief of police over here in San Bernardino. How's that transition been?
Pretty seamless, actually. I came here with high expectations because I know, having the history of working with the sheriff's department and working in the same area, essentially, very familiar with the department. I knew that the San Bernardino Police Department had a great reputation of being a high-functioning organization, and I haven't been disappointed. It's every bit that. Lots of great officers, great talent. We do a lot of things, and I'm surprised of how much we do with limited resources, and it's been nothing short of spectacular.
Now, is that limited resources only because of the climate we're in 2023 across the nation, really, or police department?
I think I would be remiss if I didn't, point back further than that. I mean, we've certainly had some issues that are affecting everyone, but I think that we're unique in that we're probably the only city that's dealing with all of the issues from the pandemic, all of the issues with the social justice movement and the onslaught of police reform issues that have made our business less attractive. But the thing that makes San Bernardino unique is that we were dealing with all that on top of recovering from a bankruptcy in 2012. And so while the city has moved forward tremendously and we've made some strides to recover, we were already in recovery mode. And so then we compounded things with pandemic, and then we compounded things with, a lot of other, social changes. So I'm proud to say that we're doing well. But we have not recovered fully from staffing shortages. We've not recovered fully from, equipment and resources that have been lacking.
So where do you guys stand now as far as personnel? How large are you now?
Well, my goal is for us to get back to pre-bankruptcy numbers, and that was, somewhere around the area of 350, and for a city our size, and with the level of activity that we have. If we were at 350 in 2012 and 2023, we probably should be more than that, but I'll accept the 350 if we can get there. But right now, I think our numbers are right around 290, and so we're short.
Yeah. And when you guys went through a bankruptcy, I know you weren't here at the time, but a lot of officers left.
Yes.
My department picked up a bunch of officers
Yes.
here, and they still have contacts here, and they tell me nothing but good things about you.
Oh, good.
What's been your transition with the troops here?
It's been. I don't want to jinx myself, but it's been great. I think the biggest thing is understanding that it's all about the troops. For me, having come from a healthy environment at the sheriff's department where it was a family environment, where it was understood that you have to take care of your people. That's been my mindset here. And taking care of your people means giving them the tools that they need to do their job, giving them the support that they need to do their job, and then setting a standard that they understand and that's clear, so everyone knows what that is, and then having expectations that people do what they're expected to do. And I think most people thrive in an environment like that because there's no mystery. You take all the mystery out of it, and then they know they're going to be supported as long as they're doing the right thing. So that's that's all I've done, and they've done the rest. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you said you came from a healthy environment with the sheriff's department. What kind of got you into this line of work to begin with?
man, it was a fluke, really. I wasn't the guy who grew up wanting to be a cop. I didn't, play with police cars. I was an athlete, or wannabe athlete. And,
Yeah, you still look like you're in pretty good shape today.
I'm old and broken, but thank you.
Yeah.
But the thing that got me into law enforcement was, when I was, aspiring to go to college, I was actually interested in being a lawyer. So I wanted to, take political science and criminal justice as a backdrop for that. And then, at the same time, I was also interested in playing football. Well, I grew up in Texas, by the way, and football in Texas is pretty competitive if you don't
Texas
know.
is king. Football's king in Texas.
So I got a rude awakening when I was, a pretty good high school athlete. But then when I was, wanting to, make that jump, to the college level, I realized that there were guys around the country that had been born and bred to play football, right. So I wasn't good enough, So the bottom line is I had to have a fallback plan, and that was to go to school. Started doing that, didn't finish, decided to take a detour and start working, and so when I went into the work field, I don't know if you remember, I don't know how old you are, but there was a huge recession that happened, and I was, doing real estate, doing construction, and doing a whole lot of other little things, and I was out of work, and I was like, I needed a job, and one of the things that I knew I wanted was a job that had some stability, because all the things that I was doing at the time was based on sales or based on commissions and that sort of thing. Or in construction and real estate, it was based on the weather, or based on what was going on. So my fallback was looking for a city job or something that had benefits. And so I was in Inland Empire at the time, and back then, you didn't go online. You actually went in the paper to look for a job.
I remember that, yeah.
And so I ended up coming down to 5th Street in San Bernardino. That's where the Human Resources building was. And I'll never forget walking in and asking the lady for the list of available jobs, and she gives me this list, and it had, electrician, had, maintenance worker, and all these different things. And I was like, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do that. And it had deputy sheriff trainee. Well, I had to ask what that was. I didn't even know what it was. And she said, well, it's, like being a deputy sheriff. I'm like, well, what's a deputy sheriff? I didn't even know what it was. She said, well, it's like a police officer, but you'd be training, to be a police officer, and you'd go in the academy. And I sat there and looked at it for a second, and I was thinking, well, I'll just do this just for a minute until, the things turn around, and, because I needed a job, right? Yep. So I'll do it for a minute, and then I'll get out of this and go back to my normal, work, right? So I fill out the application, do all of that, fast forward to get all the calls, do the medical, do the psych, do all the things necessary. And so now I'm in the academy. Well, I'm in the academy, but I'm still driving my pickup truck, and I'm still doing side jobs, and I'm still, trying to think, or at least I think I'm going to still hustle on the weekends and,
right.
and work my job, right? Well, learned very quickly that the demands of the academy didn't allow for that, so I had to commit. And I dug in and I committed to the curriculum. I committed to the physical fitness, and it wasn't long before I realized that I had a niche, for everything that was going on. I was doing well in the academy, and ended up in the top 5 in my class, and I liked it. It was like this is kind of cool, and so. That was it. I had the bug. I was smitten, by wanting to be a cop. So after that, everything, was history. I went to the sheriff's department and had the career that I described earlier, and I've not had a single regret. But my way into the field was not the traditional route at all.
Yeah. And what did the family think about you taking on that job?
Oh, that's another interesting thing. My mother was, just like any other mom. She was pretty ambivalent. Well, if you're going to be happy, but my father was very much opposed. He was a businessman, and his idea was that I shouldn't work for anyone. I should continue trying to do business. And so he was very much opposed to the idea. But I think he finally came around.
Okay, all right. So it was more like they didn't want you. They wanted you to be something more, have your own business or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, mom's obviously,
Yeah.
safety issue. Her
Yeah.
baby. She didn't want her baby to, to get hurt or anything like that.
Exactly.
But nothing as far as civil rights or social justice or anything like that.
I didn't have that. I mean, both of my parents were clearly from that era. And they have some pretty dynamic experiences of their own, but they didn't have issues with being concerned about me being a police officer. They were just the opposite in terms of understanding that anything that you want to do, you can do and do well. But I also believe that they understood that, if you're, a proponent for change, you can only make change when you're in the game.
Yes,
So.
absolutely. Yep. Can't be on the sidelines. You got to be in it. Now you got on, what year was that?
91.
91. Oh.
No, 90, I'm sorry, 90, 91, 92.
Okay. So that was right around the LA riots and.
Right, Rodney King had happened. I think it happened when I was in the jail, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were your feelings back then about what was going on?
That was the first major social incident that I'd experienced, in terms of, impacting police and the perception of police, giving us a reason to, reevaluate what we were doing. I remember very clearly, there were some training changes that were made, and it changed the discussions, that were being had. It obviously, evoked some of those issues around race, because of the race of the officers, the race of, Rodney King. But I wasn't on patrol yet, so it was still a little distant for me in terms of being able to actually either relate to what it must be like to be out there on the streets and encounter someone who you perceive as resisting, or to really judge the tactics. I knew that it didn't look right. I knew that much. I knew it didn't feel right. And the fallout afterwards was a little more resolute, and that provided some clarity. And obviously, as time went on and I became a little more seasoned in my profession, I could make some clear distinctions that everything.
And fast forward to 2020, we had George Floyd and all that. You were out of the streets again. You were in management, I'm sure.
Right.
What were your feelings when that went down?
Pretty similar. That this was a catastrophic failure. That we, as an industry, suffered from. I think that it's unfortunate that we look at those issues and the only lens that we look at it from is the issue of race, where I don't believe that that's the only dynamic at play. I think that a lot of times it's a training issue. A lot of times it may be a personnel issue. Like I would be interested to examine some of those things and look at what other discipline issues did the involved officer have prior to, what training issues did they have prior to, what's the agency's management style and expectations. There's a lot of things that come into it, and then if it just happens to be a white officer, and if it just happens to be a black suspect, then that becomes our only focus. And I think that part makes it an unfortunate loss of an opportunity, because now we're not talking about those other relevant issues. We're not talking about training. We're not talking about management. We're not talking about leadership. Yep. We're only talking about race. And then we lose the ability to move forward in a more productive way.
Right. And there are a lot of issues in our profession that we're working through. Right. Nothing's perfect. Certainly not law enforcement.
Absolutely.
But we're getting through them, and when we identify those problems, that's when we need to act.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you mentioned identifying the problems. to solve problems, you have to first start with the proper definition of the problem.
Okay.
And if we define every single thing around the thing that we see externally, black suspect, white cop, must be racism. Okay. Well, if we start with the wrong definition, then we're not going to be on the right road to solving the problem. Okay. And I think, many times, we improperly define the problem. And if we don't define the problem appropriately, then we're never going to arrive at the appropriate solutions. We can throw all sorts of money at it. We can throw all sorts of new rules, new legislation in trying to solve this ill-defined issue. Because we defined it wrong in the first place. So I believe wholeheartedly that we have work to do. And I believe that there's a lot of opportunity for improvement. There's a lot of opportunity for change. But I think that that should be measured the appropriate way. And I think by and large we haven't done that. And I think that we're reacting to emotions as opposed to properly analyzing facts. And we're allowing the narrative to be driven, by external issues, and we're not captively, looking at, what are the things behind these issues, as opposed to just this one dynamic that we see in the forefront, which is, two people who don't look alike, so it must be race. Yeah. And I think that oftentimes that's not the case.
Yep. I mean, unfortunately, what happened in Memphis, all those...
That's another thing that'll exacerbate that narrative. But even with that, with them all being of the same race, you would think that would be the aha moment that, hey, maybe this isn't just race if it can be 5 black officers and a black suspect. But even with that, I heard, folks trying to say that this was still some sort of derivative of white supremacy. And I think that just does us all a disservice. I think what we should be looking at are the things that I described before. What were the training issues there? And from that incident, I've already heard, haven't been able to verify, but I've heard that some of those issues have come up. That they had lowered their standards, that they had implemented a waiver for felonies, that there were, previously educational standards that had been lowered to allow, officers on the department because they were trying to close some of the gaps to satisfy diversity hires. And while diversity is important, and I seek to add to our diversity every opportunity I get, I will not lower standards to do it. I'd rather have a good cop than just a black cop or female cop or any other cop. I want a good cop. And I think that situation in Memphis, if those things are true, if they are true, that is a classic example of A, not properly defining the problem, and B, what is possible if we look at the right things, if we look at all those dynamics behind it and really assess those things appropriately, we can solve things.
Yeah, absolutely. On the flip side of that, though, all the departments across the nation are in need of bodies right now. And, people don't want to be police officers for a number of reasons. Right. And some departments are finding that, maybe they do need to lower some standards, drug usage and things of that nature. What are your feelings on that?
Well, I'll run short. Okay, I'm not a proponent of lowering standards. I think that, we have to, when you say drugs, that's a broad description. Right. I believe that we have to evaluate marijuana, especially here in California, because obviously, there's legislation that's made it legal here essentially, but it's still not legal federally. So I will not waver on that. We've examined things like how long ago. Where it used to be maybe an absolute, now there's like, okay, well, if it was a year or longer, that sort of thing. But everything else, we have to understand. The public wants professional officers. The public wants good policing. Even in the very epicenter, of some of these issues, George Floyd, or we could even go further back to some of the things that we
Michael
talked about
Brown
before,
and all
Michael Brown. Never before had you heard, this defund police, abolish police rhetoric. But even after that started, there was a couple of surveys, or polls rather, that indicated that the majority of black people, over 80% of black people, did not agree with that.
Yep.
And the majority of them said, no, we want police, we need police. We just want good police. Yes. We want police that we can trust. We want police that we feel good about. So that's what I'm believing, and that's what I'm listening to. And that's what I hear when I go out into this community. I have tons of support from the black community, and none of them, are of the belief that we need to get rid of cops. So my call then is to give them what they're asking for, and what they're asking for is quality policing. Not lowered standards, not taking away from the professionalism by allowing unprofessional behavior to either come in the front door or exist once it arrives. So yeah, there won't be any lowering of standards while I'm here.
Absolutely. So you just mentioned you've got a lot of support in the community. Have you met up with a lot of the community leaders?
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes,
how's that transition been for you? That experience been for you?
It's been educational. I get to talk to folks. I get to hear what their perspective is in terms of their police services. Some of it historical, which gives me an opportunity to understand some of the things that they've maybe not been satisfied with, and provides a roadmap for where we can make improvements. But overall, it's been very welcoming, and it's been a partnership. And that's what it's all about. I think that as a police chief, you understand that you can't do it alone. You need the support of your people internally, and you need the community support externally. And both of those relationships, internal and external, is built on trust. The people that work for me in this building have to know that they can trust me. They have to know that the decisions I'm making are for the good of the whole, not for me. I'm as high as I'm going in the department, right? So there's no part of me that will benefit, from being self-serving. I'm where I'm going to be, but the rest of them have futures. They have careers that they're trying to, have certain attainment. They have, assignments that they want to achieve. They have promotions that they want to achieve. And so I have to look at all of the things that provide avenues for their success. And that means being clear, being transparent, and like I said before, taking some of the mystery out of it, which is, making it very evident what you have to do to be successful in this organization. And, that's where the trust is established. Externally, people want performance. They hear, all of the things that are happening nationwide, so they want to make sure, hey, well, is that stuff happening in San Bernardino? Well, what are you going to do to make sure it doesn't happen? So I field those questions and I answer them. And I like to provide them, clarity on what we're doing here day to day. I show them our work. I show them our data. We're very active on social media because I believe in transparency. I believe that when people see what you're doing and when people understand why you're doing what you're doing, that bolsters more trust. So the community support, the community relationships and partnerships, again, are important, for us to be able to do our job effectively, because there's no police agency that can exist without, the credibility and the legitimacy that's provided, from the community support.
Yep, absolutely. What's kind of the makeup of San Bernardino, of the city, demographic?
I think we're majority Hispanic. I would say we're somewhere around, over 60% Hispanic. We're maybe 20%, white, and around 14% black, and then a smidgen of other. And I think our department almost closely mirrors that.
Okay.
We're low in our African American numbers, but that's not due to a lack of effort. It's due to a lack of applicants, and we work hard, to go out into the community and engage, with the different community groups to seek and find, those qualified candidates. We have a pretty robust recruitment division, and our public affairs unit works very hard, putting those messages out there that we're hiring and that we're seeking applicants. So we are probably at around, I think 6 or 7%, African American. We're majority Hispanic. We have, I think around 12% Asian, if I remember correctly. So overall, when you look at Hispanics, Blacks, Asians, and others, we're a majority minority department, and that's something that is not well known. That I'm actually proud to say, so that people who believe that we're a all white male organization, that's false. Even from the top down, I'm an African American chief. I have an African American commander. I have a female lieutenant, who's over 2 prominent divisions. Have a Hispanic, assistant chief. So again, diversity is well interwoven within this organization, and I wouldn't tout that if the diversity that's represented wasn't qualified and talented, because again, that's more important to me than just a demographic.
Yep, absolutely. And the city of San Bernardino is a pretty active city. You could say that. We could say that out loud.
We can say it. It's a very active city.
Yeah, very active city. What are kind of like the strategies you're doing to kind of combat some of this crime that's going on?
Well, to combat violent crime or any other crime, you have to be proactive. There's not a lot of science or research that's necessary to understand that if you have a police department that is only capable or only focused on responding to calls for service, then that means that they're responding after the fact. Right. Crime's already occurred. Yep. The only way that we stop crime, deter crime, or suppress crime is by committing resources and committing our effort to being out there before it happens, and that requires proactive policing. And so we've really committed ourselves to that notion. We have special teams that are out there dedicated, to violent crime. We have special teams that are out there dedicated to narcotic enforcement. We have special teams that are out there dedicated to, some of the other nuisances that are permeating the city. And so I think our proactive approach has paid dividends. We've recovered, over 1,070 guns, in this last 12 months, and the narcotic seizures have been, more than in recent years, and all of that is through proactive policing. And I can tell you that our crime is going down. It's significant enough that I will probably boast a little about that in our next annual report, but. What's more important though is that we sustain it, and I've hesitated to publicly announce it because I want to see that we're sustaining the trend that I'm seeing currently. But I think it's safe to say that we will, and I think that the approach has been because we've been very proactive. 100%. 100%.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as I look around here in your building here, I see lots of join SBPD, and you said you guys hit that hard. And what kind of other than being a really active department, kind of stuff that your officers can enjoy here?
We have a variety of assignments, and that's one of the things that we like to talk about in our recruitment. We have special units that an officer can work throughout their career. We have a mounted equestrian unit. We have narcotics, like I mentioned before. We have SWAT. We have special investigations unit. We have robbery, homicide. A litany of assignments that will provide, variety and a little bit of diversity in career growth. And that's important, because this is a long career, 20, 30 years. So someone working this career wants to be able to have different things that they can do to build their skill sets, and also different things that they can do to avoid boredom and burnout. It's hard if you're just doing one thing for that many years. So we're happy that we can offer that, and I believe that it's an attractive component for a lot of young officers that are, especially if they're coming from smaller organizations that don't have those things. I mentioned before that I came from Upland, and Upland doesn't have the ability to offer. No offense, Upland, but they don't have the ability to offer those things. So that would make an organization like us very attractive. And the other issue is, it also, in addition to those things being good for the officer, it's good for the community. When we have the ability to address crime from a multitude of levels and using all of those resources to provide a holistic approach to crime fighting, it's productive, very productive.
Absolutely. And just for the record, there's not just all the gang teams and SWAT and all that. You guys also have community relations.
Oh yes, absolutely.
School resource officers.
I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that. I mean, we are very committed to community engagement. In fact, that's one of the staples of my mission platform. Community engagement is akin to good community policing. And community policing is just based on the notion that you want to get the community involved in your efforts. You want to get the community involved in your mission. So we achieve that by going out throughout the different districts that we have. And each district has a district resource officer who's a lieutenant. And they hold regular engagement opportunities, whether it's coffee with a cop, whether it's a community chat where we'll bring folks in and allow them to hear from one of the different units that I just described, so that we explain to them, what we do, how we do it, and how it's affecting their particular district. So that's been very insightful and welcome from the community, because now we can go out and we talk about the different problems that are happening in the community. We allow folks to share with us the experiences that they've had, and we come up with problem-solving techniques together.
Okay, all right. So you've only been here 8 months or so. What's next on the plate for you?
To continue the direction that we're going, because I really believe that we're making headway. I've found that I have tremendous buy-in and tremendous momentum. So I want to capitalize on that momentum to make some positive change in the community, to get crime lowered. I will say that when I arrived here, San Bernardino had recently had an article in the paper or a magazine that described this city as one of the most dangerous cities in the state.
It's had that reputation for a while.
It's had that reputation for a while. Well, I'm going to boldly say that I want to change that reputation. So there it is. I've said it out loud. My goal is to get us at least elevated from that bottom position. I think that we can do it. I know I have the talent and the will in this building to get it done.
Irvine, watch out.
We're coming.
Irvine's always there to talk. Yeah.
We may not get Irvine overnight, but we definitely want to at least get past Oakland.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Chief, so I appreciate the sit down with you in this
likewise.
environment and coming down and let me talk to you and use your facilities. Really enlightening. Hey, but you're not done yet. I did tell you that I've got a little trivia game here for you. So
I'm ready.
Add a little technical difficulty. I was going to allow you to see it there on the iPad there, but you're going to have to look at my phone here.
Black or blue, 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 black or blue. Come on.
So this is my black or blue game here.
Okay.
And your category today is A Few Good Men, Chief Goodman. I'm sure you've seen that court drama, classic court drama movie. I'm going to show you an actor, and you tell me were they in that movie or not.
All right.
Real easy, right? All right. So here's your first actor here, Kevin Bacon. Was Kevin Bacon in A Few Good Men?
Absolutely. He was the prosecutor.
That is correct. Yep. He was the prosecutor in that movie. Okay. So you know your movies. All right.
Hold on. What's my prize? What do I get?
Bragging rights.
All right.
Bragging rights. All right. How about Julia Roberts? Was Julia Roberts in A Few Good Men?
Julia Roberts was not in A Few Good Men.
That is correct. She was not in A Few Good Men. All right. How about Morris Chestnut? Was he in A Few Good Men?
He was not.
He was not in A Few Good Men. That is correct. See, you know this movie.
I know that movie.
Hey, everybody loves this movie. Okay, maybe this one will throw you for a loop. How about Kevin Pollak? Was Kevin Pollak in A Few Good Men?
Yes, he was. He was co-counsel.
Yes, he was.
He was co-counsel. Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was going to trip you up there. No, he was in A Few Good Men. Yeah, he was co-counsel. How about Brad Pitt? Was he in A Few Good Men?
No, he was not.
No, he was not. No, he was not. How about Cuba Gooding Jr.? Was he in it?
Oh, wait a minute. No, but the guy kind of looked like it.
Oh, that is incorrect, sir. He was in A Few Good Men.
Oh.
He had a real small part there, but yeah, he was in it.
That's
he
right.
was in
that's
it. But
right.
yeah, I know who you're talking about, that other guy.
The other guy that was actually on trial for it. They sort of
Yep. How about J.A. Preston? Was he in A Few Good Men?
He was the judge.
He was the judge. All right. Only one wrong here for you. A couple more here. How about Demi Moore?
She was the other attorney.
She was absolutely in A Few Good Men. Kiefer Sutherland, was he in A Few Good Men?
Yes, he was. He was in it too.
All the good men were in it. Yes, he was definitely in there. He was one of the ones charged with that code red, is that they call it?
Code red.
Yeah. Were you ever in the military?
No, I was not.
Okay,
No.
all right. How about Dustin Hoffman? Was he in A Few Good Men?
Wow. I'm gonna say no.
Oh, yeah, you got that one right. He
Yeah,
was not.
okay.
All
right.
He was not in A Few Good
That was
Men.
that was a lucky guess,
Yep.
but I couldn't remember.
How about Sam Elliott?
Man, I love Sam Elliott, so I would have
Yes.
remembered if he was in there, but I don't think so.
No, he was not in A Few Good Men. Yep, you would have remembered him with that
He was in
voice. and all that.
Tombstone though.
Yeah, he was. That's a great movie too. And how about Tom Cruise? Was he in A Few Good Men?
Tom Cruise
No,
was
we
the
all
star of the
know
show.
That was a gimme right there. Got another gimme for you. How about Jack Nicholson?
He was the main man.
You can't handle the truth. Yeah, he was in A Few Good Men. So
He ordered the code red.
Yes, you aced that one. You only
All right.
got that one wrong. Yeah, A Few Good Men.
All right,
Right.
so has anyone beat my score?
Nobody's. Well, I think we've had a couple perfects, but you were almost there.
All right,
99%.
close enough.
99%.
Close enough. I'll take that.
All right. Hey, how about some words of wisdom for the viewers and listeners before we get you out of here?
You know, I don't pride myself to be wise, but I do think that I've lived long enough to know a few things that are right and a few things that are wrong. And the one thing I will say is, just to remind people, judge us the way you would want to be judged. And, especially when we're talking about the African American community, I remind them of this all the time. We've had a lot of fights for civil rights and for other forms of justice. And one of the things that we don't like, as a group of people, is to be judged all the same. I don't want to be considered a thug just because I'm black. I don't want to be considered, someone who, might be, unemployed or any other negative stereotype. So, as an industry, I would say, judge us accordingly. Don't paint us all with one brush. Something that happened in Memphis, that doesn't apply to San Bernardino. We are not Memphis. We are San Bernardino PD, and so that would be my words of wisdom, if they are wise indeed, is to have the patience, have the intelligence to understand that you judge us by what we do, don't judge us by what others do.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you're doing a good job over here. I wish you lots of luck
I'm trying.
in your future endeavors, man, and keep it going. Keep going. I appreciate
so much.
you.
I appreciate your time. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Hey, that was an amazing interview I just had with Chief Darren Goodman of the San Bernardino, California Police Department. Chief Goodman, I appreciate you letting us use your beautiful facility out here and talking about your journey into law enforcement and where you see yourself in the next, future endeavors of yourself and your department. I really appreciate it. If you guys appreciated this interview as well, hey, make sure you still click those like, subscribe, and bell icons on my YouTube channel. And if you listen to me on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you rate the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. Again, this is the Black and Blue Podcast Street Life version, where I take the podcast out of the studio and into the streets. But till next time, Y'all know what to do. Stay black and blue. My name is Dale. I'm out. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.